Do you wish that all things wealth and finance were much easier to understand and not presented by a bunch of beige cardigan-wearing geeks? Welcome to the Clever Investor Podcast, where we're dishing up the easiest to understand finance program served in bite-sized chunks, so your brain will thank you as your knowledge grows. Hosted by the brilliant Owen Taylor, a multiple award-winning expert with a glorious knack for explaining the complex world of wealth in the simplest of ways.
Hello, Clever Investors, and welcome to another show. Today, I want to talk to you and our studio guest about build to rent and what exactly is it. So over the last 20 years, we've seen a steady increase in the amount of Australians that are calling a rented property their home. Now, the stats in 2022 show that this is now just over 1/3 of the population. And certainly the social stigma of I live in a rental property has well disappeared nowadays. And we've seen this amount of Australians that are quite happily renting property increase steadily over the years. Joining me in the Clever Investor studio today is Josh Mellick, who is a research analyst at Blue Wealth Property. Josh, welcome to the Clever Investor podcast, and also happy Jersey Day as well. We're sitting here in a couple of our team's jersey. Josh wearing with pride his Parramatta Eels. Yep.
Go Para.
And I've got my Marrickville Football Club jersey on as well.
Perfect. No, thanks for having me, Owen. So it's a new concept that's been introduced in Australia recently, which is, as you mentioned, the build to rent. And because Australians' housing affordability is becoming to be a challenge for most, it's a new alternative way of owning your own investment property or your own home. So what it is that instead of builders actually building to then obviously sell to investors or to owner occupiers, they're actually building but then leasing them out to long-term renters. So as you said, this is something that's going to become more popular in the years to come because it's really started becoming popular in America and the United Kingdom. So it's something that it's going to become a new way of living for most young Australians.
So what advantages this got, obviously, then to the general public, to the tenant that may live in the property?
Yeah, so a lot of the advantages is that there's the security behind actually living in one of these build to rent. So a lot of the time the leases in these complexes are a lot longer than your average lease. So they can be up to around 3 years. So it gives the owner a lot of security around, not being able to get shafted out from a tenant if he's coming back or, going overseas or needs to sell the property. So you actually secure in that apartment for 3 years or up to 3 years. And it just gives that the ability to know that it's your own home and, being able to live in there. Another thing is that there's a lot of amenities in a lot of these buildings as well. So give that sense of community feel. So, there's a gym. Some of these complexes have a gym, co-working space. So it gives that kind of feel of being in a community and creating friends with your local tenants as well that are in that building as well. As well as there's a lot of the leasing around it is very flexible. So one of our people that I work with, she's living in a build to rent and she loves it. She's saying how, you're able to paint your own walls and configure around, do all these other stuff in your apartment that you normally wouldn't be able to do in a normal apartment complex. So it's just giving a lot of young people the ability to kind of make their own apartment, their own home.
The building is then owned by the one sort of person, family, corporation then, but they're building in from the beginning, literally, a great amount of flexibility of the people that can live in it. So you're saying that they can paint their own walls?
Yeah, exactly.
And I understand they can have pets.
Pet friendly. Yeah, so a lot of the apartment complexes are pet friendly. So I'm not sure if there's a size or what around it to the complex, but you can have your miniature poodle, your sausage dog in your complex, and it's very attractive for a lot of those tenants that actually have their own pets and wanting to move to those places.
And I suppose hence the reason then why the leases are offered at more than the normal 6 or 12 month lease.
Yep.
Because you can settle down into it.
Yep.
This then would lead to me, obviously I'm a big fan of rent vesting. So this is something that could work quite well for somebody who's a rent vestor,
Yep.
who normally has the issue of being informed that the owner wants to move back into the property that they've been renting for the last 8 months, or that, they can't have a dog because the owners don't like it because, they're, it used to be their home. And so this is something that can definitely, it's a good thing, you see it as?
Yeah, I think it is. It's about giving the tenants the flexibility of, having their own place. So if they're living in a place where they can have their own dog, or, be able to live the lifestyle that they want to live, or what they would have living in their own home, as you said, I think it's a way of the future, and something that's going to become a lot more popular, and seems like it's becoming popular now in Australia at the moment.
Let's flip this over then and look at the from the owner of the building, which I'm imagining can be, different sizes, buildings. If they sell the building, that's sort of a short-term fix for them, and they've got issues, I suppose, with capital gains tax,
Yep.
even if it's a large development. So if they're retaining the property and then renting it, it's a long-term commitment from these developers as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. So you normally get a developer that would build and then sell them straight away to make a quick profit. So, but a lot of these developers now they're holding and leasing them to, obviously, for long term. So it's more of a slow grind, when instead of just selling them off very quickly. Yeah, you're right.
You mentioned before the security of being able to, as a tenant, you could literally secure like a 3-year lease on a property. Great for forward planning. As a rent vestor myself, fantastic idea. But circumstances change in people's lives.
Yep.
Do you have any information about what would happen if I'm a year and a half into a 3-year lease? What, am I stuck with this? Have I got to stay there?
So sometimes there will be, negotiate at the start of your lease if something does actually pop up. But circumstances obviously do change in in your life, or in a builder's perspective. So yeah, it all just depends on the way you negotiate up front with the developer, if that's something that happens.
So this is it's obviously a regular sort of lease contract that you're signing, and you can negotiate these things into. You can ask for what you think you might need.
Yeah, of course. So the developer just can't just knock on your door one day and kick you out. He obviously just needs to give you a period of time and give you a bit of a heads up of, if he needs to kick you out as such. But normally it's obviously in the contract at the start.
So without mentioning a particular property or anything like that, within the marketplace, what are the rents for these properties then?
So generally, obviously, because you got the amenities in the building, and a lot of the apartments are a lot larger floor plans and floor space. They're a bit of more of a premium. You can say it's your typical apartment complex, but as we've mentioned before, you're getting a lot more. You get a lot more for your money back with all these amenities. And
well, I suppose if you're not paying a gym membership down the road, and you've got your if you're self-employed, and you've got your work from home facility built into your building, and you haven't got to go and lease somewhere else, it's probably not actually that much of a premium when you cost it out.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, as you just said, it's kind of you might be thinking that you're paying a bit more than what the market or what you would be buying down the street, but that this is all incorporated into what the actual rent is at the end of the day.
Yeah, so take a bigger picture view of what you're doing, and see if it's offering value to your particular situation. So I know the person that you're speaking of, and she's really happy with the convenience of where she's living, having everything literally in the same building. I believe actually at the bottom of the building there is a supermarket.
Yeah, there's
as well.
an IGA. Yeah, she says she loves it. She walks down, gets her snacks.
It's like one massive pantry at the bottom of the lift.
It can be dangerous, but she says she just enjoys the whole lifestyle and living in the area. Or it's pretty cool concept being introduced.
And so you think that there'll be a lot more of these popping up over the next few years?
I think so. I think as the affordability of trying to own your own home becomes a challenge for many young Aussies. Yeah, I think it will be a concept that will be introduced and become more popular within a younger demographic, a lot of the millennials, and I think it will be a popular concept in years to come. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today and shedding some light on what these are. It's something definitely to look for. Do you know if when they're advertising these properties, they actually state that it's a build to rent building?
I believe they do. I believe they do advertise that it is a build to rent, just to give the renter kind of an idea of what's happening or why is.
Yeah, I know. Look, with the properties that I own, I actually make a point that to tell my managing agents when we're looking for a new tenant that they are purely rental properties, so that I want to attract somebody that wants to make a home in my investment properties, so I can, ideally get a long-term person. So it's something that I guess my tip would be to talk to your local agents in the area you want to live in and see if they've got any properties like this and go and have a look at them. So I see them as a great, fantastic concept as well. And also, of bigger picture, I see that if the developer of this is then hanging on to it as well, I would say that they built the quality into it as well. It's not like put it together and let's get rid of this. Because they're the ones that are coming around to doing the maintenance and the upkeep of the property as well. So, cool. Thank you again, Josh, for coming on for the Clever Investor. We will get you on again. We'll see you next time on another Clever Investor podcast.
Thanks very much, Owen.
You have been listening to the Clever Investor podcast, proudly sponsored this week by Blue Wealth Property. Are you ready to start a new investment journey? Get in touch with the industry leaders, Blue Wealth Property. Blue Wealth have a proven track record in using research to identify growth markets, and Blue Wealth have supported thousands of Australians to buy the right property in the right market at the right time. Go to bluewealth.com.au.